Let's talk about Rishi Sunak and his leadership campaign. He wants to become Prime Minister and he wants to say all the right things and he wants to tackle illegal migration. I was waiting for this to happen. I was waiting to see when they're going to start talking about this issue and how they're going to talk about it. So, as you guys know, I'm staying out of all this because I don't like anybody when it comes to the current political environment and especially the Tory candidates. But so I'm going to scrutinize everybody, so it'll be actually easier to hold them to account. The first priority for Rishi Sunak was the NHS. Of course, it's the NHS. He wants to get the socialist votes. He wants to pander to the big government people. Second priority is he says he will tackle illegal migration. But I'm going to show you a bit of a flaw in his plan. I'm going to give you the details of his plans. First, let's listen to this.
Now I want to talk about the second, immigration. But before I do, let me make one thing very clear. I'm not looking for scapegoats. This issue is morally complex and involves real trade-offs. Good people can reach different conclusions, but what must no longer happen is that choices are taken off the table and kept away from public scrutiny and debate.
All right, well, first things first, he says that he's not going to use anybody as a scapegoat. He's not going to shift the blame. He was clearly targeting Priti Patel and Boris Johnson and the government, because the government kept shifting the blame. I wonder who was part of the government, that government. Oh yeah, Rishi Sunak. Yeah, you were doing that too, weren't you? But he says that, well, let's talk about the systemic problem, because the illegal migrants, they're not bad people.
These are not bad people, but it makes a mockery of our system.
Oh wow, mockery of the system. So let's talk about the system. He's got a bullet points. He's come up with bullet points. Brilliant. So on the surface, some of them actually sound good. Some of them, a version of it, I definitely agree. Some of them are just completely stupid. So the first one says reforming the broken asylum system. Well, that's the idea, Rishi. That can't be one of the main bullet points. Yeah, of course, the fundamental thing is the laws that you have to change. Oh my God. Okay, so bullet points, the second one, giving Parliament control over who comes to the UK. So they say one of the ways to tackle the migration as a problem is to say, well, creating a cap set annually by Parliament on the number of refugees we accept each year via safe and legal routes. So considering the problem is the people who come and enter the country illegally, especially via small boats these days, the best way to stop them is to set a cap, a number of people that we're going to allow in or they're going to come in. Then the best way to do it is if you do it through safe and legal routes. You do realize, even if you hit the cap, and you've like, oh man, basically we've got now 5,000 people who've now come and legally, you're not actually doing anything to stop the small boats. Did you actually think about that when you came up with this bullet point? No, clearly not. That's one thing, and you got the third point as well. Now, next page. Firstly, he wants to make Rwanda partnership work, which is fair, but you have to change your agreement because we've agreed to take vulnerable migrants from Rwanda to the UK. That's a big problem. But number 6, holding the French to account. Okay, so good luck with that. We've tried that before. It says increasing cooperation with France to stop small boats setting out from France with clear targets to be met. Isn't that the current government policy? Isn't that something that Priti Patel has been trying to do for the past 500 years? Doesn't happen. Doesn't work. You cannot trust the French. Yeah, that's what John Redwood said. Rishi Sunak wants to solve our border problem by being nice to President Macron. Who believes that is going to work? You can't do that. This guy doesn't actually understand that you can't work with the French anymore. These people are no longer our friends or allies. They don't really care. If they did, millions of pounds that we've been giving them, they would have done something about it. They clearly don't. There's no appetite in France to keep the migrants in France. We can't blame them. When there's an open door here, they say, well, actually, it's better if you get on the boat. We're not going to stop you. Now, 7th bullet point. Sending failed asylum seekers and foreign criminals back home. Oh, again, that's been tried, Rishi. That's the current policy. It doesn't work. How are you going to send them back? I think that's the whole point of the problem. Again, it's like the first bullet point, which should be the headline. I have a solution to solving the illegal migration. I think the solution is we should stop illegal migration. That's not a solution. There's a problem, fundamental problem, especially when it comes to small boats. There's a loophole that basically they say you can't prove that they came from France. It's funny because everyone knows they came from France, but you can't prove unless you have some sort of drone following them from France, like from the UK, sending a drone there and basically with a camera recording it with evidence coming all the way to Dover, then that's evidence. Then you can actually show them and show the European judges that yes, this person actually came from France. Otherwise, you can't prove that. You can't send them anywhere. They would just lie and say, I'm actually from Syria, even though they're not really from Syria. It's nonsensical. They don't really get it. So, Stephen Swinford tweeted that Liz Truss allies say that Rishi Sunak's plans to house migrants on cruise ships rather than hotels would breach international law, because that's one of the plans that he's got. They say that it will ultimately end up creating prison ships in areas that are in need of tourism and investment. Okay, pot kettle, Liz Truss and her team as well. Not that they have solid program or kind of a resolution to this whole problem as well. That kind of makes me think: does Liz Truss want to continue the hotel policy? Because that's how it sounds, right? Well, we have her bullet points. They're slightly vague, more vague. A pledge to introduce tough measures to deter illegal channel crossings. 3 areas. Expand the Rwanda policy with more countries. Yeah, that hasn't worked so far. Thank you. Reinforce border force with more staff. Yeah, that's not the problem. Okay. We will not cower to the ECHR and ensure it works for Britain. Well, you just gotta basically say, no, we can't hear you, ECHR. Either leave the organization, either completely create some sort of border, build a wall on the English Channel. You can't just add more staff and make it work. It's sort of like with the NHS. You think you just throw money at it and then it's just going to operate. Doesn't work, guys. It just doesn't work that way. I mean, if it's one of those issues that we don't really have a proper solution, like in terms of the full package. So I can sit here and judge them. I can scrutinize them and criticize them. But I can't come up with a proper full plan either. I can't claim to know the full solution. There are smaller solutions they can actually put together. We've discussed on this channel, but there is no way. One of the main things is just deportations. That's the only way you can do it. Leave the ECHR, deport countries, done. But that's just one area. But with the full area, it's a very, very complicated situation. So do not overpromise. That's my problem. If you're like me, and a lot of us, and we don't really have a concrete full program as a solution, then don't just overpromise, because you're going to completely destroy the integrity of democracy, and people are already sick and tired of your empty promises. Now we're going to come back in half an hour and tell you more about the BBC and the climate argument, because the BBC are losing their minds again, as usual. The biased BBC. Subscribe to the channel. I'm Tousi, and we are the media.